Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to Pullman National Historical Park's Lunch and Learn series. We are getting started just a couple minutes late. Thank you for your patience. As we get started here, just want to make a couple of announcements. The first is this meeting is being recorded. Secondly, we have some very exciting events coming up. I'm going to go ahead and rattle those off, but we will also repeat them at the end. This presentation will be about 20 minutes, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for discussion and questions. And I will read off our very exciting upcoming events again at the end there. So first of all, we have Railroad Days coming up June 1st and 2nd. That is hosted by our official friends group, the Historic Pullman Foundation. It is a very exciting weekend in Pullman. We will have historic rail cars here visiting Pullman, the place they were built. We will have lots of activities. Tickets are currently on sale if you go to their website, pullmanil.org. Other events that we have coming up, June 8th, we have National Park Radio. That is a concert here held at Pullman National Historical Park. It will be outside on the state grounds of the state historic site. We encourage everyone to come with a lawn chair and a picnic. It will be a really nice evening here at the park. We will have more details on that very soon, so keep an eye on our Facebook page. Other things coming up are more editions of this Lunch and Learn series. So our next edition will be June 20th, and that will be covering the many faces of the Pullman Porters. Ranger Elijah will be giving that presentation. And then July 18th, Pullman on Prairie. I will be leading that with a close partner of ours, the Glessner House, and that will be talking about what the Pullman's life was like on Prairie Avenue here in Chicago. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and get started talking about Pullman at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, led by Ranger Grace. I'll hand it off to Grace.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. That was such a lovely introduction that you had for me. And of course, I'm excited to be here to talk about Pullman at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. I wanted to start off by giving a lovely quote. Expositions are the timekeepers of progress. They record the world's advancement. They stimulate the energy, enterprise, and intellect of the people and quicken human genius. They go into the home, they broaden and brighten the daily life of the people. They open mighty storehouses of information to the student. Every exposition, great or small, has helped some onward step. This is from President William McKinley speaking at the 1901 American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. Although President McKinley used these words to describe the Pan American Exposition, it can also perfectly capture the excitement and the legacy that the expeditions have held within our country, especially the 1893 one. This World's Exposition provided a central stage to showcase what was available to Americans and to highlight our progress, to see the art and industrial innovations that would become kind of the hallmark of our country's legacy. These new innovations, from advancements in technology, art, new food, new music, was all a part of the experience, this rich sensory mosaic that visitors could experience at the World's Columbian Exposition. For my next slide, you are probably going to see kind of a little bit of an overview of how the world was welcoming Chicago. We are no longer Porkopolis, the city of cussing and spittoons and rude behavior. Chicago has arrived. And in fact, Chicago had beat out other cities like St. Louis and New York, in part because of our connectivity to railroad. The railroad terminuses in the city that would greatly aid how visitors would experience the fair. We could see the Columbia welcomes all nations. And not only was this an American-centered experience, but it was a way for folks to visit other countries, but also for the world to come to Chicago and see for more than what its original heritage was. This was a draw for folks, especially since it was highlighting our vast innovations within what that was happening at the country. And so Chicago was awarded this bid, and they set about setting aside acres to form this whole plaza for the World's Columbian Exposition. This map kind of shows you what is happening here, the fairgrounds in a way. We can't exactly go back in time, but through the helps of maps, we could kind of get an essence of how large it was. Of course, this is where we have signature architects and designers like Burnham and Olmsted leaving their mark on the city and the fair itself. Going to the fair, visitors can experience quite a large array of buildings to explore. As the next slide kind of shows, an aerial view of what it could have looked like. Of course, drones weren't available then, but we could kind of see the immense sense of place. And there was no short of activity and electricity and bustle that you could have experienced at the Columbian Exposition. Of course, some of these pursuits were more entertainment, as the next slide shows. It was beauty and entertainment wrapped together in one. This shows that administrative building and the numerous ways that people can get around the fair. Of course, many arrived by train, but then we have this vast waterway network to help visitors experience these buildings. So on one end, you have this vast amount of learning going on of agriculture, industry, world government. And then as the next slide shows, through that grand architecture of still that administrative building, the next slide will show those different viewpoints of how large and the draw that brought people to the World's Columbian Exposition. But like we said, it wasn't all very serious and egghead type things you can do there. You could, in a way, travel to other countries. For example, the next slide will show you different artwork of the world of the arts building, and then transport you within that same short walk to the Midway Plaisance, which was where that fun kind of happened. This is where Americans could maybe grab really unique food, go on the wheel, the Ferris wheel that you see there, and just see and be seen. Adjacent to this, we also have the world meeting, America and America meeting the world. You could walk on the streets of Little Cairo and be transported to an Egyptian village, to the next slide showing a Persian palace in a way, both very exotic places in America's mind, to maybe more of a setting that some of the newly arriving Americans were more familiar with, which is an Austrian village scene as well. But while this was meant, the White City, as it was called, was never meant to be a permanent space on the American landscape, there were some permanent innovations that could be found, and very real innovations that could be found within the transportation building designed by Louis Sullivan. This shows the transportation building via the waterway entrance, but also, as the next slide shows you, with more of the iconic Golden Gate that would impress visitors. This transportation building was meant to showcase not only a throwback to previous ways of getting around, it was supposed to highlight the new innovations in rail and travel. Pullman was drawn to this immediately and saw this as a great opportunity to showcase the Pullman Palace Car Company and the innovations that were happening within the company there. Here, visitors can enter through this main plaza and be greeted by at least 12 other countries that were housed along in this transportation building. We could kind of see very quickly, and I know it might be a little hard, Great Britain. We also see kind of iconic railroads. If you see right below the world's railways of the Baltimore and Ohio, you see that's where the Pullman Palace Car exhibit was. It is almost centrally featured, and I should say quite conveniently located next to the restroom. So how could you not stop and see them, right? Besides that main entrance, though, Pullman cars were seen as a draw. They were seen as premier modes of travel and transportation the world over, and people coming to the World's Fair would be quite pleased to see these products. The designs, especially of 1893 and 94, mark a high tide in ornate decor. But as you can guess, the World's Columbian Exposition was intended to celebrate a special anniversary for the country. As many of you already probably are saying it out loud to yourselves, it was to represent the 400th anniversary of Columbus. While it was meant to take place in 1892, it was delayed, but still they stuck with that theme of the Columbian Exposition, and the cars that Pullman showcased here really would highlight that theme as well of Columbus and discovery. At the exposition itself, the company exhibited 2 complete trains with locomotives and 8 passenger cars in the annex. And it's kind of funny that this was the theme because there's other Pullman, while there's other, Pullman's not the only showcaser or exhibitor, there's also the Wagner Car Company there, which was a competitor of the Pullman company. Right off the bat, there was some confusion because the Wagner Car Company also saw that that connection between naming their cars in conjunction with the theme of the World's Fair. If you go to the next slide, we could then dive into what kind of cars a visitor could have seen at the World's Fair. So the first one is the Isabella. It was a sleeping and observation. Like we said, there was 2. Eventually, the Isabella was renamed the Pacific. And the reason why I kind of showcased that McKinley quote, because as it was renamed the Pacific, it then transported McKinley's body after his assassination. So the Isabella was kind of showcasing that height of luxury and architecture within these Pullman cars. As we see, it's very ornate, those plush fabrics, the fringes, and the highly polished wood. But of course, we know that Queen Isabella is the inspiration behind these cars. We also have our second car that the Pullman company showcased, and that was the Ferdinand. The Ferdinand was an all-compartmented sleeper with this Pompeian red and satin wood. As you go to the next slide, this is kind of a glimmer of, once again, just as ornate as the Isabella. It had those hallmarks of the Pullman company as well. But of course, we're still sticking with that Columbus theme. And another car that the Pullman company had was the Santa Maria. And that was a parlor car renamed then the Countess. You could just imagine the excitement that people could see at this height of that luxury. Once again, we're seeing those fringed tassels, that ornate rich wood, and the electric lights within the cars themselves. But of course, where is Columbus going? He's coming to America. So of course, the Pullman company needed to have a car named the America. It was a sleeper car with ceiling light fixtures. Later parts of the car featured wreath and love knot designs on the benches with a wreath garland on the seats as well. Another car that grabbed folks' attention was the Marchena. It was once again quite elaborate, and it was a smoking baggage car as well. While on the outside it was paneled in a Primavera, in the inside it was quite beautiful, and if I had to choose a favorite car, this would be mine, and maybe it is yours too. If you know, after you see the next slide, and that's because it might be a little hard to see, but this is a domed section of this rail car. The Marchena housed a barber shop component to it that allowed for that all-encompassing experience that a rider on board a Pullman car could customize to taking care of their most personal needs of getting a haircut, and a good one, hopefully, at that. It also had a bathroom, a buffet for bar service, and a writing desk as well. Of course, you might think that the Marchena is beautiful, but the La Rabida is also a high contender for a fan favorite of the fair. And this was a dining car. It was used with the finest vermilion wood from Central America, and it had delicate stained glass, elaborate wood-carved seats, and Edison Mazda lights supplemented by pinch gas lighting. Of course, though, Pullman was showcasing his practical nature on board this Columbian Exposition, and also had a mail car. This was white enamel, as you could sort of see, with white and cherry wood finish. Pullman also himself, besides contributing these beautiful pieces of craftsmanship to the Columbian Exposition, ultimately helped fund the fair and was an investor within that. He helped bankroll the fair and donated $100,000 to help bring that fair to Chicago. Besides that other connection, you could sort of see this display. And not only were the cars on display here, but the legacy of Pullman as well, coming from the town that Pullman fabricated after himself. As we know, Solon Beeman was one of the architects that helped develop this town. So it's very adept that they would then showcase this model for visitors to see, not only at the World's Fair, but then invite others to come see as well. Like we said, not a lot of the exhibits at the World's Fair were permanent. Many of those buildings are lost to history, but Pullman was built to last. And a lasting example beyond these cars was the town that he built. As visitors were able to take the train into Pullman, they would step off at 111th or Pullman Avenue, as it was known then, and Cottage Grove, and they would be greeted, as you see on the right, by this magnificent Hotel Florence, and to the left, the administrative building. World's Fair special delegate members and special guests could stay in the hotel as well as other visitors, but there was also another place that visitors could stay if they chose to visit Pullman's town, and that was the Market Square. This Market Square building, while the center shows a key component to the functioning of the town, the grocery store, you could see on the right and left that there are flanking colonnade apartments, and that allowed for visitors to stay within the town as well and get a feel for what this Pullman experiment was all about. Besides that, today, this building still stands. Like we said, Pullman's legacy is built to last. A lot of these homes are still well intact, and this includes the Market Square. So today, to the right, you see the Market Square building, and then to the left, those colonnade apartments as well. But while millions of visitors came to Chicago during the fair and took home new ideas in commerce, industry, and entertainment, and crossed paths with others from across the world, there was some tension bubbling underneath this. While 1893 is showcasing these grand innovations, the United States is entering their version of the Great Depression. In 1893, the national economy went into a slump with credit contracting and depositors making runs on banks across the nation. This sharp contraction eventually became known as the Panic of 1893, and it lasted about 4 years. It saw tens of thousands of businesses and hundreds of banks fail, which is one of the indirect causes of the Pullman strike. With Pullman experiencing these market contractions, the company had to make a tough choice, and that was to cut wages and hours at the factory site, but without lowering the rent. As that cartoon shows on the left, that shows how perhaps some working men and women felt being pressed by low wages, high rent by their employer, Pullman, they eventually started to go on strike in May. And this is the year that we celebrate the 130th anniversary of the Pullman strike. This strike would forever leave a lasting impact on our nation's labor history and leave lots of precedents for further government involvement within labor and management disputes as well. I want to thank you for your time here as we went over our World's Columbian Exposition. And I want to open the floor now to any questions you might have as well.